And this is, in case you missed it, from Kates-Boylston for the week ending Friday, July 18th, 2025. Got a ton of great stuff, a lot of quick hits this week. But before we get to them, let's listen to this message from our friends and sponsors at Homesteaders Life.
In a business built on trust, consistent financial strength speaks volumes. That's why I'm proud to share that AM Best has once again affirmed Homesteaders' financial strength with an A- excellent rating. Last year was a transformative one for our company, and AM Best affirmation tells us we're on the right track. As a mutual company, owned by our policy owners, we remain laser focused on delivering dependable value, industry-leading support, and future-ready solutions to funeral professionals nationwide. Homesteaders is stronger than ever by every measure. Our partners rely on us for the long term, and it is critical that we execute at a high level today while aggressively planning for the future. Reach out to your Homesteaders account executive to hear more about how we are leading the profession in investing in tools and services that benefit funeral providers.
As I said last time, and have since done, I was speaking at the Funeral Professionals Peer Support Meeting. Most recently, I spoke on July 15th. It was a nice attendance, and we had a really great conversation about, the ethics of care and that kind of thing. But one of the topics that came up right then in the day was the flooding in Texas and how people can and ought to get support if they feel they need it. The question of whether or not you need someone to talk to was an important part of our conversation. And for those of you who didn't make it, and I know many of you didn't make it, there's this notion that saying I need help out loud is a great first start, and saying I need help out loud, even to yourself, can remove some of that burden. But if you're in Texas and you need someone to say out loud to that you are running out of gas, I want to tell you what other people are offering you as far as support. There was a really nice gesture by Service Corporation International and also by the NFDA for support for funeral professionals who are working in Texas and who are overburdened with all of the loss that is taking place there. I will have links to all of the resources that are provided by SCI and facilitated by the National Funeral Directors Association in the show notes. I asked SCI they didn't want to, brag about it, but they also didn't want to, not tell anybody that they were providing this service. So I asked them if they could just kind of send me a statement so that I could get it right. And I want to read it to you so that I communicate what they're doing properly, because I think it's a good thing, and I don't want to get it wrong by glossing over the wrong things. The recent Central Texas floods have had a profound effect on those working in the funeral industry, particularly given the devastating loss of so many young lives. In response, SCI is making available to non-SCI industry workers an employee assistance program, and they can receive in-the-moment clinical support via a disaster support line that is intended for anyone who is not an associate of Service Corporation International. Callers are provided with contact with professional clinicians, and the support addresses immediate distress and helps people navigate their current situation. I just think it's a great thing that they're doing, and I know that they're in Texas, and I think it's awesome. Let me read the phone number to you now in case you need it while you're driving or listening or watching. And after that, we will of course put them in the show notes as well. The phone number that they supplied is and this is again for non-SCI. SCI employees have a number that they call, and this number, the disaster support line, is 888-575-5161. That is 888-575-5161. And there is also a link provided by the National Funeral Directors Association that I will put in the show notes, but their call is on support link and that is support LINC. And that phone number is 888-881-5462. And the code is NFDA to confidentially speak with a licensed clinician 24 hours a day. And this is for funeral directors in Texas and the Carolinas who have been struggling with the aftermath of the flooding. There are also links to grief toolkits and things like that if you haven't gotten from the NFDA, I'll provide you, and they will be in the show notes. Kind of an interesting email as I started to record this on Thursday the 17th from the folks at Private Label and Buchanan. They announced that they're combating as best as they can the price hikes that have hit them as a result of the tariff. And now I reported here a couple of January probably, but whenever the tariff shenaniganizing started, I reported, and I had spoken with a bunch of funeral directors, and many of them were in the U.S. and weren't really affected by the tariffs. And I had spoken with Carlos Figueroa at the time from Private Label, and they had done a pretty good job of spreading things out during COVID so that they could mitigate their tariff downside. But it has kind of caught up with them a little bit, and they put out a notification that they have been or are applying a 30% surcharge, which is less than their costs to cover the tariffs, and they will, remove that as soon as the tariffs are repealed, depending upon when and how long that takes. The owner, Bruce W. Buchanan, said that while he understands the goal of the tariffs is to bring back American manufacturing jobs, that the thin margins with which funeral directors have to operate already makes it kind of an unfair tariff on the casket business. So anyway, I'll have a link to their statement in the show notes. In other casket news that I couldn't announce last week because I was off, Titan had James Gunn, the director of Superman, on their show Grave Conversations on July 11th. They're going to be on the podcast in a couple of weeks. We're hoping to talk about their how they deal with some of the states that are a little bit more prohibitive or make it a little bit harder for the direct-to-consumer companies. I booked them back when Oklahoma was having its trouble with getting rid of the funeral board by mistake. And Oklahoma ended up not getting rid of the funeral board, but it did raise a question that I wanted to address. And so we're going to talk about that and also about some of the pre-need stuff they have going on. And that'll be in, I think, 2 weeks on the regular in case you missed it. Not the regular in case you missed it, on the Funeral Service Insider, the podcast. This week there's a story from a UK about a UK funeral company that does drone scattering. It's called Aerial Ashes, and it has been featured in all sorts of places. And I looked, and there are a couple of companies that do this in the U.S. too. And if you know of any and you'd like me to talk to them or write about it, I'd be happy to. Just reach out. But the reason I wanted to share this story was I was just intrigued enough to go to their website. And again, I don't often say this, but this time I'll have to say pretty please with sugar on top. You have to see the front page of their website because it is, I hope, comical. I hope it's not their serious, but it shows, a drone flying into the sunset and how beautiful, and it's scattering the cremated remains into the ocean. And then on the other side, there's this family that's standing in the waves, and they're like up to their hips in waves and dust and all sorts of craziness. It looks comical. It looks it's less sensitive than even in The Big Lebowski, where the cremated remains just fly back in someone's face. It is really kind of a horror show, but also, I've never been a fan of bully marketing of like, oh, look what morons just do on the beach with these. They take these cremated remains out to the beach and they just pour them and it gets all over everybody and the kids are covered in cremated remains. And wouldn't you be better off just having a drone? It's an awful picture. I'm not gonna, I will editorialize there. It's an awful picture, but you should still see it because it's awful and also amusing. So there is a link to that in the show notes. I want to read you this story, the first couple lines of the story from the Baltimore Sun, because I think that they're wonderful and they say everything that ever needs to be said about the people who are constantly carping about crematories. White Marsh resident Claire Arthur said she has no problem with the new homes and apartments springing up in White Marsh. She also isn't scared of the macabre. She's enjoyed visiting cemeteries and taking pictures in graveyards. And while she doesn't oppose cremation, she doesn't want to live across the street from a place that does it. And I'm here to tell you, Claire Arthur, too bad. And I'm happy that you failed to keep this crematory in White Marsh from opening. So for the last couple months, I've covered this back and forth as people have been fighting against having this crematory open in White Marsh. I'm sorry, it's in Maryland. It's not far from me. I forgot you're not all in Maryland like I am. So in White Marsh, Maryland, they've been fighting against it and they have just lost at every turn. Like the rules allow it. The EPA, the state environmental people rather have cleared it. There's nothing wrong with it except it offends some people's sensibilities. And those are the very people that do the most damage to progress. And I think I'll be honest with it. As someone who lives in the kind of neighborhood that no one cares what they put, I love to see crematories in Tony neighborhoods when it upsets people who think they can just bully businesses out of opening because it offends their sensibilities somehow. So anyway, link to this in the show notes. The crematory in White Marsh will open. Another story that came in as I sat down to record is from Tukios, and I'm just going to read the headline right here. Tukios acquires Batesville's funeral home website hosting services. And there is a link to the release in the show notes. I have reached out to Tukios for comment because it's a little gray, but it says that it acquired the funeral home web hosting services from Batesville, which sounds to me like it has bought them. But then it goes on to talk about the partnership that they've had for 12 years. So it's a little unclear whether they're running them or owning them or some combination of the two. Current Batesville funeral homes that use the Batesville website will have plenty of time to decide whether or not they want to transition to the Tukios site. Here it says both companies are working closely together to ensure a seamless experience for customers with no disruption in service. Funeral homes will continue to receive the same high level of service and features. As part of the transition, customers will have the option to take advantage of the Tukios platform at their own pace and will not be required to make any immediate changes. So for more information, you can visit Tukios or Batesville.com. There will be a link to the news release in the show notes. And if I don't have anything this week, I hope to have something next week in Funeral Service Insider. And if I do, I will let you know about it here and I will link to it in the show notes. In case you missed it, is a Kates-Boylston production. It was written and edited by me, Tony Russo, and videoed by me, Tony Russo, as well. If you're watching on YouTube, wherever you are watching or wherever you are listening, please subscribe so that way when the show comes out, you get notified right away. If you would like to leave any feedback, you can do that by leaving me a voicemail. You can do that at 732-746-0233, extension 709. That is 732-746-0233, extension 709. And that is it for now. And there's a Funeral Service Insider, the podcast, out Monday, and I will catch you at this next time.